Hey guys, welcome back to Paracord Planet. Today I'm going to show you how to make a gold chain necklace out of 95 paracord. This is Ashley's book of knots, number 2944, and I also found it recently in Chien's book, The Year of Knots. She calls it a gold chain sinnet. You can use any size of paracord for this, or any kind of rope for that matter, but I'm going to be using type 1 paracord, or 95 paracord. You'll need about 25 feet of that. That's about the right size for a gold chain necklace. Let's dive in. The unique thing about this knotting pattern is that it's tied in a single strand of rope, and so I hanked the end so that we can feed it through the knot each time. If you want to learn how to do that for yourself, we'll put a link in the description for that video. So because this 95 cord is a little bit hard to see on camera, I'm going to set this aside and we'll demonstrate the knot in some 550 cord. So I'm going to lay this out on the tabletop, but when you're doing it for yourself, you might want to make it in your hand. We'll start by making one big loop, and then we're going to be making another loop on top of that, but we want it to go up through the bottom of that loop. So we've got two intersecting loops like this. Kind of looks like a Venn diagram or a pretzel heart. Next, we want to repeat that process and come up through that same middle hole. So you want to go up through both of those loops. So you now have three intersecting loops. This can look a little bit complicated on camera, but as long as you're following these steps, don't worry that everything looks kind of complex. So now is when things change a little bit. We've got our three intersecting loops. So we've one loop on the side, one loop in the middle, one loop over here. The next time, we're going to come up through this gap. We came up through this one last time, so each time we're going to be moving over one loop. So the next time we come up through this loop next to it, so now we've got four, and then we're just repeating that process. We came up through this middle hole last time, so our next loop is going to come up through the hole next to it. So we've got this big long chain. Again, it looks complicated, but it's just the same step repeated over and over again once you get it started. So let's tighten some of those down so you can see what this is supposed to look like before we continue on and go back to our 95 cord in yellow. So what you want to do is first tighten that first loop down, hold onto that with your fingers, and grab onto this next loop. You want to be pulling the one that goes into the knot. So tighten that down, you got one big loop here, move on to the next loop, and then move all of that cord to your next loop. So pull on this one, until that's all the way tightened. And then your next one. That loop's going to get bigger and bigger as you go. And then your last one. Oops, got to move it onto this one first. And then out the end. So now we've got a mini version of what we had large on the table. I'm just going to tighten a little bit further so that you can see how it's supposed to look. So we'll go through that one more time. Tighten each loop. You just want to tighten it just far enough that you start to feel some resistance on the knot. So you can start to see our spiral there, going around in a circle. Now let's go back to our 95 cord. So we've made it a similar distance with our 95 cord. As you're weaving the chain, you just want to leave your last two loops untightened so that you can put your cord through that middle hole each time. So I've got my cord hanked up, so I need a little bit bigger loops to put them through. So we've got our loops, so just bring that cord up through the middle hole each time. Then you have three loops. Hold onto your existing chain and pull on your middle loop to tighten down the first one. If that middle loop gets crazy big, you can just adjust it down to the size you want by pulling the excess cord out the end. We're going to keep on going with those knots, and we'll catch you in a little bit when we've made a few more inches of chain. So there's our chain so far. Got about 2 or 3 inches. In 95 cord, this takes about a foot of cord per inch of weave, just like most things. So the final length is going to be 24 inches, so that 25 feet of cord should do us just fine. So at this point you can kind of tell that the chain isn't super even in places. These loops here are a lot longer than these ones right here. So after we finish the entire chain, we'll go through and tighten it loop by loop. But until then, we'll just continue on with our process of keeping 2 loops open. So there we've got our 24 inches of gold chain. That's a pretty typical shorter length necklace. You could definitely do it longer if you want it to hang down farther. But I'll show you how to finish it up here. We've got our 2 loops as we've done throughout this. To finish it up, instead of looping it through the middle of those, just go back 1 loop instead of the 2. And then you can tighten each one of those down. Then you've got a little bit of a tapered end. We want to do something similar at the other end. So where you have your first loop, we're just going to loosen that a little bit. And I'm just going to tuck my end through it. So a tapered end on that side as well. You can go through and tighten each one of these loops one by one. It really doesn't take that long once you get a little bit of slack in there. I like how mine turned out. Overall, it's fairly even. You can see little spots where it's a little bit longer or shorter, but in the large scheme of things, you aren't going to notice in 95 cord like that. You can finish this off with a safety lanyard knot. If you don't know what we're talking about, check out our recent video on that subject. We'll put a link on the end screen. Links to the supplies used in this, so the 95 cord, can be found in the description. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Do I look cool?